All right, Baltimore City Council Ways and Means Committee. We are here today for 22 supplementary appropriation bills. I'm Eric Costello, Councilman for the 11th District, Chair of the committee. To my left, Councilman Robert Stokes, 12th District, member of the committee. Councilwoman Odette Ramos, 14th District. Councilman Ryan Dorsey, 3rd District, member of the committee. To my right, Councilwoman Danny McCray, 2nd District, member of the committee.
Thank you, Mr.
Council
Chair.
Vice President Sharon Green Middleton, 6th District, member of the committee. To my immediate right is Marguerite Curran, staff to the committee. I know that we have staff from the Council President's Office here, as well as Sophia G. on behalf of Mayor Brandon Scott. Let's start off with, we're going to skip over the ones that have amendments for the time being. 22-0305, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Health Department in the amount of $1.5 million. That was item number 2. Bob, you're going to be lead on all these? Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if it would be helpful, maybe I just give a quick overview of all these because there's a bunch of them, and explain kind of the reasoning for all of them together, and then we can go through them one by one if that would work for you.
Are you talking about just for health or for all?
Just to give you an overview of why we're coming with all of these.
All 22, okay.
All-
Colleagues, are there any objections to that? Okay, so why don't you come on up and we'll do all 22, and then we'll go through each of them individually. I know there's amendments for a small handful of them.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Bob Sanamy, Department of Finance. So the actions we're bringing today to the City Council are a whole host of supplemental requests to close out the fiscal 22 budget and also to begin to spend some of the surplus that we had in fiscal 22. So I want to explain kind of broadly kind of where we're coming from, why there's so many of them, and then we can kind of touch on each of them individually. We ended fiscal 22 with over $100 million surplus in the general fund. That's unaudited at this point, but we had a really extraordinary year, A, because we had a great year in income tax receipts, and B, because we had an extraordinary year in transfer and recordation tax. So we had much more revenue than budgeted, which is great news. The first set of actions are for agencies that we're bringing to close for fiscal 22. That does not change the numbers that I just gave you. This is basically just taking revenue, additional revenue, and closing agencies out for the end of the year budget where there was spending over the adopted budget. And I'm going to explain why that was in a couple cases. So for 4 of the agencies, it was COVID related. So Health Department had spending on a variety of COVID related items, homeless shelter costs, contact tracing, testing, vaccination work, other expenses that are reimbursable via FEMA. And then the Planning Department also had feeding program costs for the grocery and produce box programs that are reimbursable through FEMA. General Services had facilities costs related to COVID, security, cleaning, and health checks for people entering the building, again, all reimbursable through FEMA. And the Convention Center Hotel had spending over budget because they were not able to meet their debt service payment, and the indenture, the bond indenture says the city must chip in to make that payment. And again, that was COVID related. That's not FEMA reimbursable, but that was related to COVID. The other supplementals to close out 22 were not COVID related. So there was one for finance for accounts payable backlog and workday related transition expenses. There's one for transportation for snow removal cost, one for public works, which was for employee stipends and private contracts for staffing support, and then one for miscellaneous general for some leave balance costs that were incorrectly posted to 21 and that we had to count in fiscal 22. So that was the set of ones that will close out the fiscal 22 budget. And then in addition to those, we submitted, we chose to spend about half of that surplus on one-time items right away. And again, when you have over $100 million surplus, a lot of it one time, we had the ability to spend some of that money on one-time items. And so some of the other items you see today are for one-time spending items for agencies where we had critical either infrastructure or economic development needs that we put forth. I believe that there was a package of them put forth. I think we escalated 3 of those, is my understanding, that are on the list today, and there's still other ones that are being held for a later hearing date. And I can go through those if
Yeah.
want to hear those. Let me just pull up this other document that has all that stuff on there. Hold on one second.
Actually, we can hold off on the ones that aren't being heard today.
Okay,
Yep, we're good on those.
cool.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll step through each of these. My understanding is we've got 4 of these bills that have amendments. 22-0304, that's Health Department for $310,000. Law Department has an amendment. Is the law here?
Yeah, this is just a background. This is to correct the service numbers and the amounts that were in error when they were submitted, so.
So technical.
Yeah.
Who's here from law? Yep, sorry.
Mr. Chair, Jeff Hoxteller here from Law.
Did not recognize you with the
It's
mask.
the mask.
All right, perfect. I'll come back, Jeff. Thank you. And then 22-0314, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation Department of Planning. That appears to be technical as well, changing the amount in $5,000.
That's right.
Got it. Okay, and then 22-0330, Housing, $6.6 million. There's an amendment from law.
So this one is one of the items that we're spending some of the surplus on. So this is the Perkins Somerset project. There was a funding need that there's some infrastructure dollars the city needs to provide in addition to what we've already done with the TIF approval. So we wanted to escalate this one with the money we had at the end of '22.
Got it, but my understanding is Law Department has an amendment for that one. 22-0330.
I wasn't aware of amendment for this one. Was it there was a technical amendment that I think DLR made in the authority lines? Was that the amendment for this one?
For PSO?
Let me go back and look at.
We can circle back on
Yeah.
that one.
Okay. Thanks.
And then the only other one with a proposed amendment is 22-0332. That's Convention Center in the amount of $1 million, and that's from law as well.
Yeah, that's a technical amendment, I believe, to correct the amount and the fund source.
Got it. Okay, great. Okay, we can get started. Okay. 22-0304, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Health Department, in the amount of $310,000. So colleagues, what we'll do for these is if there's questions on any of these specific ones, what I'll do is I'll read the bill in. I'll ask if there's questions. If there's no questions, I'm going to go to the Law Department to ask if it's been approved for form and legal sufficiency. If everything checks out there, then I will ask if there are amendments. We just went over the 4 that have proposed amendments. We would vote on the amendment and then vote the bill out. So on this one, Health Department in the amount of $310,000. Colleagues, is there any questions?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, if it's for all of them, then, Councilman Stokes has got an overarching question, and then Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, this is the first one, but it's for all the bills. My question, could you explain how departments, payroll, procurement, and treasury accrue surpluses? And I had some other questions after
I'm
that.
sorry, I missed the first part, sorry.
Please explain how the departments, payroll, procurement, and treasury accrue surpluses. How do they accrue the surpluses?
Well, there are agencies that accrue surpluses during the year. Largely, it's due to agencies that don't spend their full personnel budget. So if there are vacancies, which we have many right now, there are agencies that sometimes will accrue surpluses. But the ones we're talking about today all had spending over budget because of mostly COVID-related expenses.
So there are other agencies that accrue surpluses, am I correct? That's what you just
There
said.
are some, yes, that's right.
So do you have the total accrual surpluses for city departments, the total amount?
So, yeah, let me go back and pull up my,
And then the next one, which one had the largest surplus?
hold on one second here. So the net general fund surplus in fiscal '22 is estimated at $113.9 million. And, but that's a combination of revenue and expenses. So we had a revenue surplus of 186 million, but we had expenditure deficits of 72.9 million. And again, what was happening there is we did not budget for all of the COVID-related FEMA reimbursable costs because we thought it was going to end sometime in fiscal '22. So we let agencies in certain areas, some of the ones that are here today, spend on COVID-related expenses, knowing that we would get reimbursed from FEMA. So the agencies that are here today all had spending deficits.
So do you know exactly which department had the largest surplus and why?
I don't have it in front of me, but I can send that to you.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So with the largest surplus and why? My other question is, how is the surplus funds determined? Who makes that decision?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a decision. It's our team, BBMR, monitors the budget and looks to see if agencies are spending, at budget, beyond budget, or less than budget. And so if an agency has, again, largely if they have personnel vacancies, sometimes they'll spend below budget, but it's not like we dictate that. Sometimes it's just the way the fiscal year plays out that they're not able to expend all of the resources.
So what is the basis of the decision to distribute to certain agencies? I mean, how do you determine where that money go to different agencies?
Yeah, so by law, the agencies that end with a deficit have to come and ask for a supplemental appropriation, which is what we're doing today. So only the agencies that are in deficit do we have to make that request. And we have to have the money, the revenue, to pay for it, which in this case we did because of the FEMA reimbursement that we're getting, plus the strong year we had in transfer and recordation tax.
I don't want to keep doing it, but how are the projects selected? Who selects them, I guess?
So I think you're referring to the ones we selected to spend some of the extra money on. So we did, back in the summer when we knew we were going to end with some sizable surplus, I worked with the senior team on selecting those projects. So what we did was we went back and looked at, asked our deputy mayors and agency heads if there were any critical needs. We looked through all of those needs, and our emphasis was on infrastructure repairs and economic development. There were a couple of really critical items that came to the top. And so we collectively as a team, myself and the senior team members with the administration said these are the items that we want to focus new spending on. And those are the items, some of those items you see here today.
And my last question, can certain agencies request the use of their agency surplus?
They can. Agencies can can request to carry forward money from fiscal '22 into '23. That gets approved by the Board of Estimates. The law doesn't require that to come to the council, but they do have the option to request money that gets carried forward into the next fiscal year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Council Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my questions are for the Health Department. Is there a representative from the Health Department? Hi, how are you? And then also the Finance. So I guess either one of you could answer this. I know you had mentioned for the 310, the 310,000, you basically said that was used to correct amounts?
Yeah, the supplemental we're asking for Health Department is 33.8 million. So I'm not sure with the 310 if there was a correction on that.
So it's somewhere it's listed that it was used for advocacy for seniors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Could you kind of explain what type of advocacy services were implemented?
So I can take this. So these are all.
And the personnel that was provided for that.
So just to be clear, these are all, you're seeing in the bill reports the services that some of the costs were incurred in, but these are all FEMA reimbursable costs. So there was a senior feeding program, senior food program that is listed under that service. But again, this is all expenses that we're getting, that we let them overspend because we know we're getting reimbursed by FEMA.
So with the reimbursement, I know it had mentioned it was 310. Could you explain what kind of advocacy services for seniors was implemented?
Sure.
But again, this was the senior, Advocacy for Services for Seniors is the name of the program, but this was there was a senior food program where we were delivering food to seniors.
Okay. I just want to know who did, as you know, we're working on trying to create an Office of Aging, so it's important that I know how these services were implemented to our city residents, particularly the seniors.
Sure. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Julia Roche. I'm the Legislative Affairs Director from the Baltimore City Health Department. As my colleague said, the $310,000 that went towards funding food services under our service area, advocacy services for seniors. That is one of the five bureaus and offices that we have under our Division of Aging and Care Services. And within advocacy services, we offer a bunch of different programmings, including food programming. And that's, I don't know, does that answer your question?
Somewhat.
So our advocacy services assistant commissioner is James McGill. I know you asked, who does that. He oversees that bureau. We also have our community services assistant commissioner, Alice Young. And our home and community-based services assistant commissioner, Byron Pugh, and client services director, Kedra Rowe. And they all work under Deputy Commissioner Tan, who I know you're familiar with.
So finance can probably help with this. Could this service be appropriate for transfer to a new Office of Aging?
It could be.
Okay.
Yeah, this was one of the services that used to be in the old care agency.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions? Okay. 22-0304, Law Department, approved for form and legal sufficiency.
Yes, it's approved, and I note that the typographical error in Law's report was fixed in a second version of the first reader put on by DLR.
So there's no amendments?
No amendments.
No amendments. Excellent. Is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So moved.
Motion by Burnett. We've also been joined by Councilman Chris Burnett, 8th District member of the committee. Motion by Burnett, second.
Second.
Second by Middleton. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. Stokes?
Yes.
This bill passes 6-0 with one abstention. One absence, excuse me. Not an abstention. We learned the difference between an absence and an abstention last week. This bill moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. City Council Bill 22-0305, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Health Department in the amount of $1.5 million. Colleagues, any questions? Law Department approved for form and legal sufficiency.
Approved.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So moved.
Motion by Burnett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by McCray. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. Stokes?
Yes.
This bill passes with 6 yeses and 1 absence, moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. 22-0306, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Health Department in the amount of $32 million. Law Department,
Approved for form and legal sufficiency.
thank you. I skipped a step. Colleagues, any questions on this one? Is there a motion to move the bill favorably? Motion by Burnett, second by Stokes. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. Stokes?
Yes.
This bill passes with 6 yeses and 1 absence. It moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 22-0, start over. Council Bill 22-0307, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Health Department, in the amount of $35,000. Colleagues, any questions? Law Department,
It's approved for form and legal sufficiency.
thank you. Is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So moved.
Motion by Middleton,
Second.
second by Burnett. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. Stokes?
Yes.
This bill passes with 6 yeses and 1 absence, moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 22-0308, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of General Services in the amount of $750,000. Colleagues, any questions? Law Department,
It's approved for form and legal sufficiency.
thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dorsey? Costello's a yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. This bill passes with 6 yeses and 1 absent. Moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. City Council Bill 22-0309, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of General Services in the amount of $675,000. Colleagues, any questions? Councilman Stokes?
Sure, I'm looking at the capital projects, Division 675. There are 2 items for facilities, but there's no council bill for 660,000. Is that a reason why? There's no, this is, if you look at this. There's no council bill for 660,000.
Where'd you get the 660 from?
Councilman, this one we think this one was a drafting error. DLR has submitted it. It sounds like it didn't get on this agenda, but it's supposed to be coming later or soon, I think.
Can you, I'm not sure I understand what's,
We were told there was a drafting error that what didn't get on the, in time, but it's part of the same package for general services.
so the bill needs to be amended eventually?
No, it'll come in the corrected form, but it's not in the list today, is what I understand. Is that right?
Oh, the 660 is, the 660 is gonna be in a different sub.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So they're saying the 660 will
It should have been in this one, but it was an error. It was missed and it didn't make it in time for this round.
So how many of those bills do we anticipate? This is the
Just
only
that
one?
Yep.
Okay, got it. Councilman, thank you. Great question. Okay, colleagues, any other questions? Law Department?
This one was approved for form and legal sufficiency on the 675,000.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So moved.
Burnett, is there a second? Second Stokes. Costello, yes. Burnett? Dorsey? McCray? Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. This bill passes with 6 yes votes and 1 absence. Moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 22-0310, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of General Services in the amount of $8.4 million. Colleagues, any questions? Law?
Approved for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So moved.
Burnett, is there a second?
Second.
Dorsey? Costello, yes. Burnett? Yes. Dorsey? Yes. McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes? Schleifer absent. This bill passes with 6 yeses and 1 absence. Moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 22-0311, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Finance in the amount of $1.9 million. Colleagues, any questions? Law?
Approve for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move the bill favorably? Is there a second?
Second.
Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray? Middleton?
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
Could you explain how other departments like payroll, procurement, and treasury accrued surpluses?
So I think that's kind of the same. I think that Councilman Stokes asked, I understand, there are other agencies that, largely have personnel surpluses if they don't have all their positions filled. So there can be other agencies that have, that end the year with surpluses that they can't carry forward.
Okay. Did you answer what agency has the largest surplus?
I don't have that in front of me. I'd have to go back and check our files, but I can definitely give that to the committee.
That would be good information to know.
Yeah,
what
there were
agency.
some agencies with sizable surpluses, again, because we have so many vacant positions at the moment.
Okay. Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
All right, and Schleifer is absent. This bill passes with 6 yeses and 1 absence and moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 22-0312, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Mayoralty, Convention Center Hotel, $5.375 million. Colleagues, any questions?
Question.
Council Vice President?
Will there be a surplus from hotel taxes?
There was not a surplus in hotel taxes for fiscal '22. So the way this one works is the Convention Center Hotel is, per the original agreement going way back when we built the Convention Center Hotel, they can keep their own property tax and their own hotel tax to pay debt service. That's how the arrangement works. In this case, that wasn't enough to pay the debt service for the hotel, again, which was built back in the early 2000s. So we had to go into the general fund, dip into about $5.5 million to pay the debt service. We're required to do that up to a cap of $7 million. We had to do it up to 5.5 this year, and the expectation is as that hotel recovers that we should be able to, take back that general fund subsidy. But as long as the hotel is not operating as it was pre-COVID, we're picking up that expense.
Thank you for that information.
Colleagues, any other questions? Law Department?
It's approved for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So moved.
Motion by Middleton, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Burnett. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes? Schleifer's absent. This bill passes 6-0 with 1 absence and moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. City Council Bill 22-0313, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Mayoralty, Miscellaneous General Expenses in the amount of $22,400,000. Bob, can you please break down that $22.4 million?
Yeah, so this is all one item. So what happened was in fiscal '21, during the transition to Workday, there were expenses that accrued in a balance sheet account for leave that should have been charged in fiscal '21. And it was caught in the audit after we'd already closed the books. What the accountants told us is that since that money was sitting in kind of a holding account, we had to take it as an expense in fiscal '22. So again, this was leave balances that were accrued incorrectly in fiscal '21. Doesn't have an impact on the overall position of the city. It's either you expense it in one year or the other, so it doesn't change the net position. But it was a mistake. It was something that should have been charged in fiscal '21 and was not. So we're doing it in fiscal '22.
Thank you. And what audit was this a result of?
Well, this was a review. This is the citywide financial audit.
What used to be called the CAFR?
Yeah, that's right. What
What is it called now?
The annual financial report, annual consolidated financial report, I think is what,
ACFR.
ACFR, yeah.
Okay. Do we anticipate any other, for lack of a better term, accounting exercise corrections that will be coming down the pike as a result of the Workday implementation?
Not that I know of, but it's possible. I mean, given some of the, the rough transition we've had, frankly, to Workday. So it is possible, but there's none that I know of now
Thank
for
you.
23 or beyond.
Colleagues, any other questions?
Yes.
Council Vice President?
Why was the overage posted on the balance sheet instead of the operating budget?
It was a mistake. If somebody takes leave, it's paid leave, so it counts against that's supposed to count against that current year. We think it was just an issue of tagging that type of leave to the wrong account, to an account that sits in a balance sheet account, rather than expensing it right away. We think it was as simple as that. And there was a lot of folks taking leave in 21 for a variety of reasons.
Do
22,
you
I'm
have
sorry.
a annual cost of what leave is for fire and police?
I do not have that in front of me. I can find out.
Okay.
I mean, they get a certain amount of paid leave days that they're allowed to use that they accrue each year. I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions? Law?
It's approved for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So move.
Motion by Middleton, second.
Second.
Burnett. Costello, yes. Burnett. Dorsey. McCray.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Schleifer's absent. This bill passes 6-0 with one absence and moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. City Council Bill 22-0314, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Planning, in the amount of $485,000. Colleagues, first item will entertain, well, we have an amendment. Let's go to, are there any questions on this one? Councilman Stokes?
Can you explain, I'm looking at it, this is $14 million, and it says administration. Can you explain
I'm sorry, what's the question?
On the back page in the chart, it has Department of Planning, it has $14 million Department of Planning, but in the box it says administration. Can you explain administration, what is that?
Okay.
I'll let
Councilman,
the Department of Finance answer.
I can explain this one. So again, this is, all these costs refer to the feeding programs that we were doing during COVID. Most of the costs go to a service called Planning for a Sustainable Baltimore 765, which is another one that's listed. But there were some administrative expenses in running the program that were charged to Planning's administrative service. But the bulk of the costs were in that other service.
Mr. Chair, there's a request, can we get a copy of that, actually, the money for the feeding program you were talking about through Department of Planning?
Sure. Sure, we can provide that.
It's a request, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions on this one? Before we get to law, colleagues, there's an amendment on our desks. On page 1 in line 3, strike $485,000 and substitute $480,000. And on that same page in line 5, strike $485,000 and substitute $480,000. And on page 2 in line 2, strike $485,000 and substitute $480,000. Colleague, is there a motion to move the amendment favorably? Actually, Bob, can you explain the amendment? I'm assuming this is a typo.
Yeah, that's right. It's just a correction to the actual expense, the number.
Colleagues, is there a motion to move the amendment? Motion by Burnett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dorsey. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Law?
It's approved for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably as amended?
So moved.
Motion by Middleton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Burnett. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer is absent. This bill passes with 6 yeses and 1 absence and moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 22-0315, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Planning, in the amount of $13,520,000. Colleagues, any questions? Actually, Bob, can you walk me through what this is?
So this is the feeding program.
This is the rest of it?
Yeah, that's the rest of it. That's what I was saying. The bulk of it is here, but just the administrative costs get charged to that other side.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions?
So is this a supplemental money, right? So are we gonna continue the feeding program or that, because I think it stopped for a little while and slowed down, so is that money gonna be used to pick that back up?
So yeah, we were doing this in fiscal '22. We know that we're for sure that we're getting reimbursed from this by FEMA. The program did continue, I think, a little bit into fiscal '23, but my understanding is I think we've shifted it to ARPA funds now because the FEMA reimbursement is going to run out in May. We've been told that that's getting shut off in May. So I believe that some form of the program is continuing outside of the general fund, but I don't know, Chris, if you know the
So
details.
Director
We have
Right, will
an
this pick back up?
$11 million ARPA allocation to continue the feeding program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions? Law?
It's approved for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So moved.
Motion by Middleton, second by Stokes. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes? Yes. Schleifer is absent. This bill passes 6-0 with 1 absence. It moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 22-0316, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Public Works, in the amount of $2,725,000. Bob, can you walk me through this one?
Yeah, so this is also closeout supplemental for '22 for DPW. So they had private staffing costs in fiscal '22. We were procuring services from other vendors to help with the trash collection and recycling. There was also stipends that were paid to employees, COVID-related stipends for certain employees that were paid to DPW, and that was charged in this particular service.
What do we expect this figure to be for 2020 or for fiscal '23 for DPW?
I don't have that in front of me. I would have to check our projections, our second quarter projections, which we haven't reported yet to the council.
I'd like to hold this one, so if you can have someone track that number down before the end
Sure,
of the
we can
hearing,
do
then
that.
we'll come back
Yeah,
to
we
it.
could give you the first quarter projection number because we're not quite done the second quarter, but as current as we can get, we can give you what we think it'll be.
How close are we on the second quarter? Because those are
Uh,
usually done 5 to 6 weeks at the end of the quarter, end
Yeah,
of the
we're-
quarter being December 31st.
We're finishing it now, basically, so we can give you whatever's most current.
So can you give us first quarter and then tell us if that trend is continuing?
Sure,
You-
yep,
you know,
yep, we can do that.
recognizing you don't have like an actual audited number?
Yep, we can do that.
I don't know if this the question need to be asked. So my question is about, we know how hard our DPW workers work, and are we gonna be actually putting money into the budget for new trucks? Because they ride around in 100 degrees in those trucks, and some of them don't have air conditioning, or some of the air conditioners stop working. So I don't know if this is for that question.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the vehicle needs and issues now for the '23 or for the '24 budget. We don't have a decision of what will or will not be included in '24, but we're definitely aware of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just say on the record, this was another missed opportunity to utilize ARPA funding. We'll come back to that. Mara, I'm assuming and Bob, someone from your team is tracking down that first quarter projection for us as we speak. Thank you. Council Bill 22-0317, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Transportation, in the amount of $1,575,000. Colleagues, any questions? Law Department?
It's approved for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably? Oh, Councilman Dorsey.
Do we have anybody from DOT here? Yeah, we do. No, we don't.
This is Liam. I'm on the call.
Yeah, and when I was, just one thing real quick, Councilman Dorsey, when I was asked by individual agency reps, I had advised that just finance and law had needed to be here. So any agency that may not be in chambers or not on virtually, that's on me.
Oh, no problem, thanks. Where are the overruns?
I can explain. So there's three for the Department of Transportation. That this is the first of three. So one is in the snow budget. So we had activations and expenses in fiscal 22 that were beyond what was budgeted. That's not unusual. We don't plan for, we only plan for kind of like an average year of activations. We didn't have a lot of precipitation last year, but we did activate and we're out on the street kind of covering responses and events in fiscal 22. So we were over on snow and ice control service. The traffic safety service, that's just a function of if we bring in more revenue from traffic cameras, there's a vendor cost that goes with that. So that's what happened in fiscal 22 there. And then the last item was for street lighting. We budgeted based on savings we were expecting to see from some of the conversions we were done, and it was we were too aggressive on the budget, so we ended up with higher cost in some of our streetlights than we had anticipated. And we can send you details if you have interest in each of those line items, but those are the three in total for DOT.
Thanks. Can you just explain that last one just a little bit more? You overestimated how much savings there would be due to conversions to LEDs?
Yeah, we have this, if you remember years ago, we were doing the conversion of the lights.
Hopefully we're still doing that.
Well, there was a kind of a big wave of them. I'm not sure what we're doing currently, but there was a big wave a few years ago. And so we have to estimate each year in the budget what the energy costs are essentially and what the maintenance costs are. And the cost ended up higher, and we think part of that is due to just we thought the energy costs would be lower than what they actually ended up being.
Are part of those maintenance costs due to the high volume of streetlights that just keep getting knocked down by cars crashing into them?
I don't know that offhand, but we can try to find out.
We got some numbers together on that. That's averaging about $2 million a year for the city just in streetlights that are getting knocked down.
Yeah, I don't know if that's related to this though, but I can check and send it to you if you're interested.
I'd like to know that. I'm also concerned just generally about money that's being left on the table by DOT. It seems kind of hard to grasp, both having overruns and also leaving money on the table. I mean, you talk about safety improvements and that stuff. We just didn't apply for a grant for projects for $400,000 to $1 million. We just blew the deadline. We had 3 months to do it. We had people offering to be co-applicants on it with the department for the 3 months that the application was open, and we're having other difficulties coming through on grant realization of grant-funded projects that are long-standing at this point. So I'm very concerned about the department leaving money on the table, yet somehow also running a surplus. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions?
Yes.
Council Vice President?
Just one on the street lighting. I guess as we're still coming out of COVID and, having problems with procurement and getting supplies, has there been a problem with, because our street lights, a number of them are outdated, has there been a problem with supplies, and are there any creative ideas that are coming to Pike to help with communities?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not close enough to that program directly, but we can refer to DOT if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions? Law?
It's approved for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So move.
Motion by Middleton, second by Burnett. Costello, yes. Burnett? Yes. Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray? Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes? Schleifer absent. This bill passes 6-0 with one absence. It moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. City Council Bill 22-0318, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Transportation in the amount of $275,000. Colleagues, any questions? Law?
This one's approved.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So move.
Motion by Middleton, second by Stokes. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. This bill passes 6-0 with one absence, moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 22-0319, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Transportation in the amount of $2,575,000. Colleagues, any questions? Law.
It's approved.
Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So move.
Motion by Middleton. Second by Stokes. Costello, yes. Burnett? Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray? Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. This bill passes 6-0 with one absence and moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 23-0328, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Office of Equity and Civil Rights in the amount of $2,388,311. Bob, can you walk me through this one, please?
Yeah, so this one's a little bit different. This one is the cost associated with the new police accountability boards that are required. So that's going to be run out of the Office of Equity and Civil Rights. This was one that's now required by state law. It happened, if you remember, at the very end of the General Assembly session in 2022. So this is something that we're going to have to budget for starting in fiscal 23, and we'll have to build something into fiscal 24 for this as well. So we work with the Office of Civil Rights just to figure out how many folks they need to kind of do this work. They're basically responsible if there's any kind of citizen complaints. Basically, they come to this new police accountability board.
Did we make a request to the state to fund this mandate?
I don't think we did. I think this is something that was expected that all local jurisdictions are going to have to manage now. I don't think we made a direct ask for it since it is an operating cost. It's not a one-time cost. It'll be something we have to support ongoing.
Do we know if any other jurisdictions, any of the other 23 counties requested this
In terms of funding for it,
from the state?
from the state, I don't know offhand.
Is there a way we can find that out?
We can ask around. We can ask the budget officers from other
That would be
counties.
great.
I know the other ones are setting theirs up too. There's been some, there was something in the local media about this a few weeks ago about, a lot of local jurisdictions getting these set up and how they're new, and they're, just trying to figure out what the assumptions are, how many complaints we'll get, what the cost will be. So we're this is an estimate based on what we'll see for the rest of fiscal 23, but, going forward, when we get a couple years of experience with the program, we'll have a better idea of what to budget. But for other jurisdictions, I don't know offhand, but we can certainly ask around and see.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions? Law?
Chair, I know there's not a written report from law, at least on the Legistar online file. I'm happy to orally approve it from legal sufficiency because it meets all the charter requirements.
That works.
All right.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably? So moved. Motion by Burnett. Second by Stokes. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. This bill passes with 6 yeses and 1 absence. Moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Okay, on to the fiscal year 23 spending. Council Bill 23-0330, Supplementary General Fund Capital Appropriation, Department of Housing and Community Development in the amount of $6.6 million. And there are 2 amendments. Amendment 1, conform authority language to new charter numbering, specifically on page 1 in line 10, delete 3, and replace with 2 III. And amendment number 2, ordinance language should official first reader not contain it. I'm not going to read that, but colleagues, that's on your desk. Is there a motion to move the amendments?
If I may, Chair, it looks like DLR actually fixed this in a second version of the first reader.
So we are good here. No amendments?
No
necessary.
amendments from law.
Excellent. Colleagues, any questions?
Point of information, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Sorry, it looks like they fixed the amendment number 2, but does the amendment number 1 with the conformity to the new charter numbering, it didn't look like they had corrected that one.
Should the new charter be to B2 and B3? Is that what was the amendment that law had put in for that first line?
Yes, I just wanted to confirm that that was corrected by DLR, replaced with, okay, it does actually look like they did. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we're in agreement. There's no need for amendments. Excellent. Colleagues, any questions? Law Department?
It's approved for forming legal sufficiency.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably? Is there a second?
Second.
Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer, absent. This bill passes with 6 yeas, 1 absence, moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 22-0332, oh, and I should note, the bill we just passed, as well as the following 4 bills, will all be double read at the next meeting of the City Council due to the time-sensitive nature of these matters. Next, Council Bill 23-0332, Supplementary General Fund Capital Appropriation Baltimore City Convention Center in the amount of $1 million. Colleagues, any questions? Law.
This one's approved.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move the bill favor? Do we have a proposed amendment? Law Department? You guys had a proposed amendment.
I believe this was another one of those technical amendments that DLR fixed.
Fixed. Very good. This one's approved, correct?
Approved.
Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So move.
Middleton and Stokes. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. This bill passes with 6 yeas and 1 absence. Moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 23-0333, Supplementary General Fund Capital Appropriation Baltimore City Convention Center in the amount of $1,543,000. Colleagues, any questions? Law?
It's approved.
Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So move.
Motion by Stokes, second by Middleton. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes? Schleifer absent. This bill passes with 6 yeas and 1 absence and moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. City Council Bill 23-0334, Supplementary General Fund Capital Appropriation, Baltimore City Convention Center in the amount of $3,757,000. Colleagues, any questions? Law?
Approved for forming legal sufficiency.
Thank you, colleagues. Is there a motion to move the bill favorably? Motion by Stokes.
Second.
Second by Burnett. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer absent. This bill passes with 6 yeas, 1 absence, and moves to second reader at the next meeting of the City Council. Council Bill 23-0340, Supplementary General Fund Capital Appropriation, PRJ 002758, in the amount of $9 million. Bob, can you walk us through this one?
Yeah, so this is the one, this is related to the Edmondson Village Shopping Center. So there's a development project that the city would like to pursue. We're going to have some, skin in the game to do some improvements, but my understanding is there is a team that is ready to assist and to jump into that project, but there will be some city funds needed to start that off.
Councilman Burnett, you're in support of this? Correct. Thank you. Colleagues, any questions?
My question is, I think this is great, but do you have it, because I'm sure my colleagues, there is any additional money for other shopping centers in different districts in the city?
Not that I'm aware of. This one was a priority because we have a team that's ready to jump in and do the work. So this is the one that came up, when we were going through uses of surplus for this year.
Colleagues, any questions?
Just a comment, I think that this is definitely an area that's in need of assistance, way overdue. That shopping center is a main thoroughfare heading, to the county line, and it has great opportunity for it to be a wonderful place like it was many, many, many years ago. Lots of problems that have been encountered, and I look forward to this project really coming to fruition.
Law?
This is approved.
Thank you. Colleagues, is there a motion to move the bill favorably? Motion by Burnett, second by Stokes. Costello, yes. Burnett? Yes. Dorsey? Yes. McCray? Yes. Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer is absent. This bill passes with 6 yeas and 1 absence. Moves to second reader at the next meeting of City Council. Back to Council Bill 22-0316, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Public Works, in the amount of $2,725,000. Bob?
Yeah, so we did, thank you to our staff for looking this up. The Q1 projection we had shows that DPW would end this year with about a $300,000 surplus, which is what we know as of the first quarter. We'll have to find out a little bit more on second quarter, but we don't anticipate that the issue from 22 will be repeated in 23.
So just to confirm, the $2,725,000 is essentially the deficit that DPW ran from fiscal year 2022.
That's right.
And we're using a bucket of surplus funding to cover that.
Right, that's right.
So they overspent $2.7 million in 22.
That's right.
And in 23, I'm assuming their Q1 projection was approximately $75,000
About $300,000 surplus is what they're projected for.
the entire year.
For the entire year.
So Q1 was $75,000.
Yeah, I mean, there's some seasonality built into that, so we try to project ahead through. It doesn't mean they had exactly a $75,000 surplus in the first quarter. It's just looking ahead what we think they'll end up with for the full year.
So they're saving money, right?
Well, the two things that happened in 22 was, one, we were still giving stipends, COVID stipends for certain employees for part of fiscal 22. And the other thing is some of the contractor costs that were hitting in fiscal 22. So we know for sure the stipend costs won't be repeated in 23. I know that they are still considering or using some staffing contracts to help with the staffing needs. But neither of those two things will be repeated the same way in fiscal 23.
So they're currently using contractor staffing, or they're currently considering using?
I believe they're using some for certain routes, although I'm not sure exactly what routes. I think DPW left, but they were here a moment ago. That's a question for them.
And when do we anticipate the fiscal year 23 Q2 projection to be completed?
I mean, we're wrapping it up now, so we'll be reporting that back to the council whenever that next hearing gets scheduled.
Got it, but when do you think that number will be finalized?
By the end of this week, I think.
By the end of this week?
Yeah.
So can you follow up with the committee by the end of this week with what that figure is
Yep,
and how
sure.
that impacts the projection if the 300 has gone up or down?
Yep, absolutely, we can do that.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions on this one? Law Department,
Approve for form and legal sufficiency.
is there a motion to move the bill favorably? Motion by Burnett, second? Is there a second? I'm not seconding this. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Middleton. Costello, yes. Burnett?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
McCray?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Schleifer's an absence. This bill passes with 6 yeas, 1 absence, and moves to second reader at the next meeting of City Council. We're now in adjournment. Thank you.